All right, so I just wanted to give you a little bit of a review since we did not have a chance to go over a lot of this in class this week since I've been out and giving tests and things like that. So I'm going to go over all of these vocabulary terms and also like what the definitions look like, kind of give you an idea of what the test is going to be. So the first section has to do with vocabulary, and you're going to have terms from The Minister's Black Veil as well as The Fall of the House of Usher on these two parts, but they are separated by story. So if you have your textbook or you can access your online book, then they are literally the definitions that come straight out of the textbook. So make sure if you haven't, take your textbook home. All right, so the first one is abhorrence, and this, all right, sorry about that. The first one is abhorrence, and the definition for that is a feeling of repugnance or loathing. So abhorrence, loathing. The second one is aghast, and this one is struck by shock, terror, or amazement. So, like if you're shocked, you're aghast, like, oh, kind of thing. The next one is demeanor, and this is the, hang on, do I not have that one marked right? Let me check. Okay, so demeanor should be, whoops. That one's actually, for some reason, not on this list. Let me go to the actual one. Demeanor should be the way in which a person behaves or deportment. So demeanor is how you behave. Emblem is going to be an identifying mark or a symbol. So emblem is symbol. Mitigate is to lessen, like you make something not as bad, you mitigate that. Obstinacy is stubbornness. So if you're stubborn, you're obstinate. So obstinacy is stubbornness. Ostentatious is conspicuous and vulgar. Let me make sure that one's right because I'm not seeing that. Oh, I was on the wrong part. Yes, conspicuous and vulgar is ostentatious. Palpable. Say that one was from The Fall of the House of Usher. Palpable is not correct either. Hang on just a second. All right, so it's on there. It's just not showing up on my phone when I pull it up. Palpable is capable of being handled, touched, or felt. So palpable, capable of being handled. Pathos is something that evokes pity or sympathy. Plausibility is having the ring of, nope, that's specious. Hang on. Plausibility is likelihood or believability. So plausibility, believability. Sojourn is a temporary stay or a brief period of residence. So the guy in The Fall of the House of Usher took a sojourn of a few weeks to go stay at the House of Usher. And then specious is having a ring of truth or plausibility, but actually being fallacious or a fallacy, like it seems like it would be true, but it's really not. It's the opposite of a paradox, which is in the next part. So hopefully those are the terms that you would need to know for those two stories. So then the next part moves on to the literacy skills, and you would need to be able to identify literary elements based on the definition or example. So the first definition says a poem written without regular, I forgot I'm going by the test and not this. So the first example is allegory. And so for this one, This is, let me find the question on the test here. I knew I should have put them in the order that I use them. A story or poem that can be read on one level for its literal meaning and on a second level for its symbolic meaning. So it's literal, but also symbolic, which is what The Fall of the House of Usher actually is as well. Let's see. The next one is extended metaphor. And so this one is a comparison, like a regular metaphor, only it is extended over like the whole rest of the passage. So extended metaphor would be an idea developed over a number of lines or through multiple examples. So that is an extended metaphor. Free verse is the poem written without a regular pattern of rhyme and rhythm and may or may not have conventional stanzas. So free verse is just written. It doesn't have to have certain stanzas, doesn't have to rhyme, doesn't have to have a certain rhythm or anything like that. Imagery, this one should be fairly easy, but it is something that appeals to your senses. So for that one, I think it's maybe an example on this one. It talks about what specific words provide imagery. And so for this one is going to ask which one, and honestly, it's everything. Upon the mere house, upon the bleak walls, upon the vacant eye-like windows, the white trunks of decayed trees, all of these different examples are imagery because it all gives you a picture, it's a color, it's something that appeals to your senses. The next one is irony. And this one is going to have its own question, and it actually will have you match the different types of irony with what it is. And so you have verbal irony, which is when you say the opposite of what you mean, sarcasm, understatement or exaggeration, things like that. And an example of verbal irony is if your friend says, I'm having a great day, and then she tells you she woke up late, didn't eat breakfast, left her homework on the bus. So she's clearly meaning the opposite of what she said. Situational irony is when a character or reader expects one thing to happen, but then something else happens instead. And so you expect that Mrs. Mallard would feel this crushing sense of grief, but she actually feels freedom once she processes the news of her husband's death. So that is an example of situational irony. And then dramatic irony, this is when the audience or the reader knows more or something that the characters do not. So in the flashback scene from an occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge, Peyton Farquhar is actually being set up. And so he has no idea that the guy is actually a Union spy, but we do, because at the very end of that flashback, it says that the guy passed back going north and that he was a Federal scout, which meant he was a spy for the Union Army. So those are the examples of irony. Metaphor, you should know that one, a comparison of two unlike things that have something in common. And it does not use like or as. And so this one, let's see, should be the carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. And so what that one is actually, that one's kind of metaphor and personification, honestly. So I may have to add that answer choice there. But, okay. So anyway, that one's supposed to be the example of metaphor. Mood is the atmosphere or the feeling that a writer creates for the reader. That is the mood. Then paradox is a statement that seems to contradict itself, but it actually suggests an important truth. And so the example for that one is much madness is divinest sense, because you wouldn't think that if you're crazy, you would make sense, but it actually does in that situation. Personification is the giving of human qualities to an object, animal, idea, or abstract concept, such as the fields of gazing grain, giving those fields the ability to look upon different things. So that would be personification. Simile is the comparison of two unlike things that have something in common, but it uses like or as, and so then close the valves of her attention like stone. So anytime you see like or as, that's going to be the simile. And then symbol is the, where is that one? No. Oh, a person, place, or thing that represents more than its conventional meaning. And so like the veil in the minister's black veil is more than just a veil. Like it's a symbol of so much more than that. So those are the literary skills questions. Again, some will be examples, some will give examples and the definition. Just be able to know what each of those is. The third part is parallel structure. We talked about this quite a bit when we did some of the earlier works kind of at the end of the first semester, but also at the beginning of the second semester. And so you have different examples of parallel structure, and it says using the same pattern of words to show two or more ideas have the same level of importance. Basically, it's a balance. It makes it equal. So what this one's asking you to do is make these parallel. And so the first one says, Eleanor Roosevelt, wife of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, was one of the most active first ladies in U.S. history. She held press conferences, wrote a daily newspaper column, and then you have to fill in which one makes it parallel. So she held press conferences, wrote daily newspaper column. So you need a verb and then what it does. So the answer would be advocated tirelessly for human rights. So you have to make sure it's balanced. It has to make sure it has the same concepts. You have she held, wrote, so you have to have another verb. The next one says, depending on the temperature tomorrow, we could get, and the answer for this one would be rain, sleet, or snow. Like you wouldn't say rain, it might sleet, or possibly, like you want to keep it balanced, keep it the same. Rain, sleet, or snow. One word for all those. President Reagan's economic recovery plan, dubbed Reaganomics, sought to, and then again, you have to make sure it's all the same, and you want to make sure that if you have an ing in one spot, you have in another part, or it's the same type of verb. So this one would be lower taxes, increase spending, and create new jobs. Lower, increase, create. You have that verb balance there. And let's see, a couple more of those. Trent plans to blank in a short triathlon this spring. So swim, bike, and run would make it parallel. And then the last one starts the sentence out, and it's giving information about Mae Jemison. And the answer for that one should be a medical doctor and astronaut, comma, Mae Jemison made history as the first African-American woman in space. So it's just the balance with all that. The next part is point of view. And so this is what perspective the author uses to tell the story, and that can combine and switch. So you're given a story and you have to decide what point of view it is in. So for this one, you're going to look for words. If you see things like I, me, we, that's going to be first person. If you see you and your, it's going to be second person. Third person is going to be the other two, but then you have to decide, okay, is it limited or is it omniscient? And so remember that the limited point of view is going to only see one perspective. You're not going to see both sides. You're not going to see everything else. Like you're only looking at one particular character. Whereas the omniscient is going to see everything. And so, let's see. And this one actually has a hint on the one that is not omniscient. And it says, hint, the reader will only know Anselmo's thoughts and responses insofar as he reveals them through his actions. But Robert Jordan's thoughts will be shared throughout the story. It's his reactions and his interpretations of events that the reader will understand and follow. So the one with the hint is the limited. The other one that's he, she, all that is omniscient. And then the rhetorical strategies part and purpose. This is, you have a very short excerpt. One of them is from Susan B. Anthony's Is It a Crime for U.S. Citizen to Vote? So a couple of paragraphs is all it is. And then it talks about what rhetorical strategy that she uses. And you're going to look back to the examples from above, and then some of them are just kind of, they're not exactly there, but you're going to look at, for example, what rhetorical strategy she uses in the part where she says, it was we, the people, not we, the white male citizens, nor yet we, the male citizens, but we, the whole people, who formed the Union. And so she's repeating the we part. So it's repetition. And then the next question will ask, how does it help her argue her purpose, basically? The second one is actually from Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. And so the first question says, what is the purpose of the speech? And so in this case, it is basically to, yes, he's talking about the loss of the people at Gettysburg and all that, but really, he is trying to remind the Union that they're fighting for equality and freedom. He's trying to give those reminders so that they know what they're supposed to be doing. And so one of the rhetorical strategies, the main one that he uses, is parallel structure. In a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. And then another example, government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. So that's where you have parallel structure. And then you have to decide, how does this help him achieve his purpose? And anytime you have parallel structure, it's going to make it balanced. It's also going to make it really memorable. So keep that in mind. All right. And then the last part is going to be works cited and in-text citations. So you did these when we did our research papers. You're going to get a citation and you decide what are all the parts. So I'm actually going to show you that section and let you kind of see what that looks like. So if you're given this right here, then the first question is going to ask, what is the last name of the first author? So this one has two authors. It has John Donovan and Karen Zucker, and it says the last name of the first author. So Donovan would be what you would mark. Last name, first author. And then the article title comes right after the author, and it's always in quotation marks. So if you see article title, it's going to be in quotation marks. And the next one part says, what would the parenthetical or in-text citation be? And so you use, if you have an author, you use the last name. If you have multiple authors, you use both last names. So this one would be Donovan and Zucker. And then some of the other things talks about which is the website or publication. So the website is going to be the part that's italicized, CNN here, or if you look back at this one, The Atlantic. That's the publication title or the website title if it was a web source. The next part is the publication date, and it will come like you have publication title or website title, then you'll have publisher, and then you will have publication date. So this 16 April 2015 is the publication date here. Over here, they're October of 2010. It didn't have a specific day, but that was the month. This one was a magazine type thing. It only came out once a month. Then parenthetical or in text, again, this one, two authors. So last name and last name, Almacy and Barnett. Then it says, again, who is the author? And if you don't have an author listed, they're is no author. There's no listed author. So don't get that one. Don't put things that are not there. And then parenthetical or in-text citation for this one, you would use the article title, the first part anyway, of the article title to address that. So images show, keep the quotation marks and all that. And then again, another one asks for the publication title or website. So that's the italicized. Another one, this one asks for parenthetical. This one only has one author. So it's just going to be the author's last name, not the first name, just the last name. And then the last part talks about you have to decide if each one is a research question, which is what you're going to be answering with your research. If it's a thesis statement, which is what you're going to be proving, like that's your position on the issue, or if it is supporting evidence, and that would be like your data and the material that you're going to use to support that thesis statement. So for this one, it says the Open Internet Order requires internet service providers to deliver online content at the same speed. And so this is just a fact. It's not the thesis statement. It's not taking a position on anything. So this one would just be supporting evidence. This one, though, says internet service providers should be required to deliver all online content at the same speed. Now you have a thesis statement because that one is saying this is my position. It should be required. This one says to help reduce gun-related injuries in the home, should gun locks be mandatory for all firearms? If it has a question mark, it's the research question. This one, because gun locks have been shown to reduce gun-related injuries in the home, Massachusetts passed a law requiring firearms to be stored with a locking device in place. This is evidence. This is not a position. This is a fact. Solar energy is a better source of power than coal because it's clean and renewable. That is a position, so that's a thesis statement. And then the last question is just, what is your favorite thing we've done this year and why? So that one, you're on your own. But just wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of what's on this test. So hopefully you made it all the way through because I gave you the answers to the last questions if you did. So just rewatch this video over and over again. All right. So I will see you on Monday or Tuesday, whichever day you have your test.